Please meet our next speaker, Maciej Lelusz, AWS Hero, founder and CEO of Inleo and AWS User Group Krakow leader. Maciej is an independent consultant, IT architect, mentor, blogger, podcaster, IT community builder, CEO and Inleo. He likes to share the knowledge and spread the good practices among the community of experts and IT enthusiasts. Those who he organized AWS group meetups in Krakow and VMware user group events in Poland. Maciej will talk about IT transformation in multi-cloud area. Don't forget share your questions to Maciej, and best question will get and provide AWS credits and prize from NX. So Maciej, the stage is yours. Hi.
All right. Hey, hello. Nice to be here, and thank you very much for invitation. Uh, so, internal IT transformation in multi-cloud era. I know that sounds like little bit like a clickbait, but I want to share with you some architect point of view of transformation of internal IT, generally in cloud era, and right now especially in multi-cloud era. What challenges, what desire models, what would we should choose to put our infrastructure and our general approach to the customer on the next level. So a little bit about me. Thank you for presentation. So I will not go through it again. So the most important thing, if you want to share some thoughts with me, is to see what I'm thinking, what I care, you can visit our blog here, and also catch me on Twitter. So let's start, guys. Right. So I'll just start with something a little bit funny. So imagine my surprise when as architect, I'm joining a different projects, right? And sometimes, maybe more often even than sometimes, there is a problem that the teams they are not on the same page, right? So let's say that developers on the bigger organization start already transformation, an internal team, my IT team, it's just like somehow a little bit behind them. It's happening, usually because there are no experts, right? So there is a thinking that okay, the cloud is generally a subject that is like been here over a couple of years, like 7 last years. But there are experts. There are many of them because IT just transforming itself over the decades, right? So there are experts that exist there, and they understand the importance of getting closer to the customer or supplier, right? So I use the customer word here because I just want to emphasize the fact that as a new internal IT team, we should start to think about developer teams, data analytics teams as our customers. So think about it like maybe going to coffee shop to buy coffee in the morning, right? So you don't want to go to the, let's say, Starbucks, right, and enter on the counter and ask for a coffee like this. That you enter to the place, you need to make 3 times authorization at the door, right, with different keys and different stuff. It's just unusable. Okay, you enter to the coffee shop, then you go to the counter, and then what? You issue a ticket on Jira, to get a coffee. No, you just want this to be normal, just to consume the services like it should be. So there's supposed to be some money. There's supposed to be the easy way to do that. So most importantly, the digital, like this transformation, it's takes usually not only one person, but it needs the entire team to change a little bit their mindset, especially in the, let's say, the cloud era, the multi-cloud era. So I just want to define a little bit how I understand personally this, let's say, 3 types of cloud infrastructure. So there's going to be a cloud, like a basic SaaS usage. So you can use Office 365 or maybe some collaboration suite like I know Google Workspace right now or something like this. So this is like simple use of cloud, of public cloud. Also, there can be a private cloud, which is which is basically your data center, but there are, like a base use, right? So, and there is also a hybrid cloud and multi-cloud. There's a tons of videos, tons of materials over internet that they try to make a difference between hybrid and multi. I will not go into it. I just want to show you how I understand that. So the hybrid cloud is the way that you can seamlessly move application from one side to another, right? So you don't change your management plane. And it happened very rarely, right? So the hybrid cloud, it's the way that it's enable you to use two vendors, but the way how you use to use only one, right? So the multi-cloud, it's an ability to most, to use the most suitable cloud in the moment that you really need it. So, like Stanislav said on the reply on the questions, right, on the last presentation, we'll go for a for multi-cloud model when we'll find a better solution than there is existing in AWS. So they know that they need to build something new. So they will not port something that is existing and working pretty well in AWS, just move it to the different cloud, right? So let's say the multi-cloud can have, it's more sophisticated, it's like the most sophisticated way of use cloud, right? And there is a thing that when you go for it, you need to start to think about it like it's a enterprise effort. So here's a painting from Peter Bruegel the Elder, The Harvesters, it's called, and I find it, very appealing when I'm thinking about generally working in a big organization. So we have builders, right? The guys. We have deliver. We have guys who eating lunch, scrum masters, and the guys who bring the water, so the payment somehow for that. And look at this. They only can achieve something that they work together. So, and they will have one target, because very often in enterprise, different departments do their own transformation with no coordination with other departments. As an internal IT team, we need to find out those moments and embrace them and put them on the spotlight, right? So just to be sure that we will not miss the moment. We will not miss somebody who will just, like do the transformation for us and will be just what, unusable. We will be somebody who will stop innovation. No, we need to go with them. There are some quick wins. We should go for them, of course, but also we don't need to. We're not supposed to speed up the transformation. It's supposed to go the way as it should. So if there are people who are not ready for it, put more pressure on knowledge sharing, put more pressure on information, bring up what the benefits they will have, and all those. The people need to feel comfortable with the internal IT taking part of this general multi-cloud transformation. All right, so when you go to the shop, like there are different options, so AWS, Google Cloud, Azure, wherever, but there are really like three models of use multi-cloud, and also it's impacting how the internal IT will look like, and it's gonna be in the moment. So you can go for running separate solution on different clouds, right? So in this model, you can build application, you can decide it will be made on, say, on AWS or Azure, and then go all in, right? So you just like make a decision, it's a strategic decision that this application will till some dedicated moment, of course, we're working on one cloud and we'll invest all our power to go on it. We will use native services, we'll build it the way that it's going to be most optimal for this particular cloud, right? There is a decision which one to choose, right? But that's, let's say this is different scope, but there are four basic or contexts that you need to think about when you make this decision. So require technical capabilities both on cloud and both in your organization, right? So you need to have people to do that. And like Werner said a couple minutes ago, 18,000 missing in Germany alone. So those decisions are very important and you need to feel comfortable with them. And also the company needs to understand the risk if they are choosing some technology, some solutions to be placed in some technology. You need to understand financial models, geolocation of services, and environmental footprint. So those four things, it's like base that it's worth to go for it. Of course, well-architected framework will help you with that. There is a second option, so you can use different cloud service from different vendors. I mean, like SaaS solutions, right? So you can go for Microsoft 365, Google, EAS, and PaaS. You can build on different solutions. So basically, you build something like you just take the things that are ready and build on top of them, right? And there is a third thing that is pretty similar, but there is a distinguishable difference. So you can pick the best service depending on the task. So imagine that you have very well built that application based on AWS Lambda, and you will let it go, let it work in AWS. But from some reasons, maybe I don't know any reasons, you want to make Google, you want to base your data analysis in Google, right? So this is like picking up the best service for you and go again all in. So AWS Lambda environment stays there, and another environment is built in different cloud. And this is like similar, but a little bit different. So imagine that, for example, for example, like one identity source from completely different cloud, and you spread it over the different or networking or something like this. So best service depending on the task, right? So a lot of of course, because we are an AWS user group, right? So everybody here probably, hopefully, use AWS, right? And some of you use the AWS the most, and you're thinking like, what this dude is talking about, right? We are like cloud native, only in AWS. We don't care, right? Okay, so probably or you use GitHub or GitLab, right, which was shown on the beginning of the presentation. So it's basically sometimes running out on different cloud. GitHub, it's surprisingly probably running on somewhere in Microsoft. If you use Jira in cloud, you use Atlassian Cloud, Office 365, maybe you use Google Workspaces, maybe Google BigQuery, Cloudflare. Those things, around, it makes you somehow a multi-cloud company, right? Just like I said, maybe not the option that everybody thinks is a multi-cloud, that you will do all of the stuff, portability and blah, blah, blah. But why I'm talking about this, because you need to think how much effort you put this multi-cloud solution. So if you build your internal IT, very often it's happening that 95% of your bill is going to AWS and just 5% to the different clouds. We call this a collateral cost, right? So you have Office 365, but 95% of your infrastructure running on AWS. So it's basically that the multi-cloud approach it's not chosen by you, right? It's choose you. So it appears that you're just using it and nothing much happened, and somebody just called it the name that it's multi-cloud. And then you need to think, if you want to go deeper into multi-cloud solution, about some other things that it will implicate the way how your internal IT will look like. So think about it, that if you will go, for example, you will have workload in AWS, and also you will build something similar in Google in case of, for example, containers, right? You will need to manage two or more different relationships with vendor, right? So imagine that you have $10 million bill in AWS and you will split it into two platforms, maybe double it because there are two platforms. You need to think about where the data will reside, because moving data is extremely expensive. Again, you need to understand the financial models because of the expenses that you need to do, understanding developing operational skills. So imagine that somebody needs to develop that infrastructure, needs to sustain it. You need to integrate and build all the tooling around it. So if you really thought, if you have like real deal with choosing multi-cloud, which honestly I'm not thinking that for everybody. I think that it's not a default solution for sure. We should very carefully think as architects, as people who drive innovation in the company, to choose multi-cloud. It's not because I just want to be in one cloud all the time. No, it's just because it's supposed to reflect the business needs. And all of the things that I'm talking about right now, they impacting how the department will look like, right? So I don't know if you watch, but many of you probably, there was a IT Crowd serial. I love it. I just simply love it. I think it's like everything what's supposed to be said about IT like 10 years ago and packed into 3 or 4 seasons. I don't remember right now. Packaging, it's hilarious, right? So if you didn't watch it, go for IT crowd. You will see how your grandparents work in IT department. In generally speaking, IT department back in the days it was just run by a genius, a dynamic go-getter, and a man from Ireland, right? So there was a funny part, strange people doing some enormous things, and let's say it was hidden in the basement and nobody really cares about that, right? It changed a little bit right now. We went to because of also because of the COVID. I think we went to this nomad type of working that we can work remotely or from our house if you feel comfortable or from some mountains back there. And I think that it's changed a little bit the way how we proceed the working, right? So imagine that one way and another, it's good if it's comfortable for you, if it's good if you bring value for the company. So you don't need to be this guy. You can be still this guys, if still you build something for your company because there is no right answer, right? So there is no good way to go. The industry maturity of digital products, it's not yet there, right? So there are no common standards, the best way to do it, right? So the best way to organize your IT department or internal IT, how to change it. Everyone is building their own RPA platforms, AI platforms, blockchains, and so on. And don't much it's visible that it's going toward one single standard. It's gonna be there someday, but then we will have another transformation, right? So right now we transform to go into cloud, and after that maybe will be some standardization there. But nevertheless, there are some ideas that you should think when you think about how to shape internal IT. So Fon Hanasa, the person who's working in AWS for many years, he had this marvelous presentation in AWS Summit somewhere in Asia. And I allow myself to just take this because I didn't see that it's possible to better, like explain that. So operational model aligned to business. It's like the thing that you should start from. So you should discover, or if you are somewhere there, you should rediscover yourself, right? Determine what you want to do with some applications, some systems, let's say dead bodies in the closet, right? So you actually have three options. So sustain, optimize, and grow. So sustain will make your team to rehost this. So if you want to move it to cloud, or if you are in cloud and you want to move it on different cloud, you will probably rehost it. And because of the cost, because of the possibility, maybe some factors that are both technical and financial, right? So, and this is like traditional ops. So this gives you a construction of the organization like traditional ops. In a moment, we'll dig into it. So you can optimize, right? So optimization will force you to do two things. So, or replatforming, right? So you will need to just take your application and replatform it, or in cloud or in multi-cloud solution. So in general, there are different APIs, different standards in different cloud vendor, right? So when you want to move the application from one cloud to another, it's not usually so easy, right? So it's easy on paper, but it's, when you go deeper in the forest, there's more trees, we have a saying. So you need to replatform it or repurchase. So that means that, okay, you want to move from this cloud to another cloud. Well, you need to buy in different software, right? So different SaaS solution, for example. This brings us to the story that you need a cloud ops team look like. All right, so they use the methodology of it. And there is a third option, the most expensive, the most sophisticated, but also sometimes giving the most value. So it's refactor option and a re-architect entirely. And this brings us to very embrace DevOps culture, right? And how, when you think about it, how to go deeper into that. So sustain model is a model when your engineering, operation, application, and platform teams are in the traditional model, right? So most of them are different people. There are some organization, of course, when there is like one team, but they do everything, right? So it's not like it's a DevOps, but it's like more a house in the box, right? So traditional ops, it's something that we know from back in the days, let's say a little bit of silos, a little bit of people who knows their stuff, and they're just moving ticket from one to another, right? Not very agile, but very stable, right? So if you want to sustain this model and bring a lot of money, bring a lot of possibilities, there is a huge risk to touching it. Maybe that's the way. Optimize is something in between, right? So something between DevOps and traditional ops. So Cloud Ops is a team where you have dev team and the people who say, like a little bit behind the barricade, who just take care of the infrastructure. It's not, like a perfect solution, but it's at least a little bit closer because the platform guys take care of, let's say, engineering and operations, right? Of the platform, and dev team is taking engineering and operations. So we have at least some kind of communication. And there is a third way to do it. So the dev teams, so small teams of couple people working on a project, and like Stanislav said, if you code it, you run it, simple like this. Very simple on paper, huge change in culture, right? So we need to be aware that it's just nice when you talk about it, but it's not so easy to implement it inside the organization. Okay. So first of all, you need to go from anywhere you want to go, right? So you need to go from this to that. And I'm not saying about CDK itself, right? So generally, infrastructure is a code approach. So you or like Terraform, or you can go for Plumi, or you want to, if you stick to AWS only, you can go for CloudFormation, wherever it suits you. Just the important thing is that you need to move from clicking and deploying one time to prepare yourself for code that it's easy to be validated, governance, all of the things happening when it's in code, right? I don't need to tell you, I think most of you understand the difference. So first of all, this one, if you move there, you're on the next level. Another thing, it's cool if you are able to build something like service catalog, right? So again, coming back to this coffee shop story. So the coffee shop story, it's nice when you come to the coffee shop, you open the door without taking out five authorization methods, right? Just open the doors, getting there, and you just coming up to the counter and saying, I want a flat white, right? And the people know exactly what to do. So the same is when you're changing your internal IT into the, let's say, cloud ready, multi-cloud ready internal IT, you need to create service catalog. It sounds, like, whatever, just do it in one weekend. No, it's not gonna be like this, it seems very simple, but the devil sits in the details. So this actually is from Service One, this picture. So this is just a simple stuff how to do it. But if you want to dig deeper, right? So there is a link on this QR code to Develop at Scale presentation done at AWS User Group Krakow meeting this year, I think. So the Piotr Musiał and Piotr Długoń-Ryba, they work in IT Hub of Philip Morris, and they build something like this. They I don't want to, like repeat after them. So I just want to give you a link to their presentation and encourage you to watch it, because if you think how supposed to look amazingly made service catalog and, like a easy to procure and use set of services for your internal teams, that's the way. Like Mandalorian said, this is the way. This is the way. All right. So coming back, so when you are internal IT and there is growing, usage of different clouds, right? So there is a thing happening. So we need to standardize consumption, because there are different departments using different clouds. For example, analytic platform from Azure, or storage from AWS, or AI from IBM or Google. They will buy it from somewhere. So you need to aggregate those things together and just be sure that you manage those contracts, right? And not let everybody to manage every contract, because after that, you will just simply don't know what is happening. So business units often pay this service different ways. May proceed through web portal, credit cards, directly, I don't know, some reseller. Just keep an eye on it, right? So this is very important, because if you will lose from the very beginning traction how the services are procured, you will not be able to make any governance at your multi-cloud or cloud infrastructure, right? So if you build the service catalog, think about it to add some value. So just simply give S3 bucket through your service catalog, it sounds, not so sexy, right? So if you want somebody to buy this internally in your corporation, not go around you through the contracts that you don't know, like a shadow IT stuff, it's nice to give him something. And for example, this can be, like entire stack of services that you need, maybe some ready VPC with all the guts inside. Different approach. Just think about it, how to, like how to sell this to your own users. For example, like nobody wants to, have right now when you go into the mobile vendor, right? And you just want to buy a cell phone and have a number. You just want to have number, SMS, caller ID, blah blah blah. You just don't buy, like a calling option only. You just buy entire package. And it's the same with centralized IT. You should, you should feel the same. You should fill your offering with aggregated cloud-based services. So, and present it to the users the way how it's bringing the most value to the company. It's hard, but it's about the communication again, right? So you need to communicate with your users, with your customers, or with your suppliers, what you can bring to the table. Integration remains a necessity, right? So think about it that when you grow and you have multi-cloud solution, any multi-cloud solution, or the simple, software as a service solution or PaaS solution or ES from different clouds, you will make tons of integrations. And those integrations sometimes can be self-made and sometimes can be procured. So go in both direction because again, we're coming back to the point when you need people to make integration by your own. And sometimes you're just a company who's selling, you're just like a factory, right? And your main target in your life is to produce, I don't know, like maybe hammers, right? You produce hammers, and how much hammers you will produce, how fast, it brings the value for the company. So I don't think that that kind of company will have benefit from huge developer teams, designing a tool to integrate two interfaces together, right? So just think about it the way that it's, let's say it's going to be your business, right? So there is interfaces, right? But another thing is network. And when you go to multi-cloud, it's not so easy anymore, right? Because in one cloud, you have everything there, right? So you just call API, build a, I don't know, segment, and you just let the traffic flow. But in multi-cloud solution, you have internet in between, right? So we need to set it up somehow. And this brings, integration on the another level, and it starts to remind me times in data center. All right, so another thing which is super important is control without obstruction. So micromanagement back in the days was a normal stuff. So we cut the permissions for everybody till the lowest one as possible, and then we ask the people to work on it, right? And right now it's a little bit different. We need to give space for innovation. So we need to control, but without killing the innovation totally. We need to help them to have rapid access to services. Like I said, nobody wants to wear to, let's say, I know UB keys, another multi-factor authentication through different. So we need to start to think how to build secure access to platform, but also that people will love to use, right? So there are methods. I'm just, it's like not, it's not the moment to talk about them, but think about it like how you will want as a person, not maybe super technical, super, into AWS or Azure or GCP, use those services. And I really admire you guys to think about it as a small cafeteria and how the people want to procure goods from there. Right. So, and there's another thing, when the internal IT needs to be ready. So you need to be ready for machine to machine purchase. Okay. So, all the CI/CD pipelines, all the stuff will buy things on your behalf. So you need to be very precise to use the DevOps methodology in that. So you need to very closely cooperate with the dev guys who will, in a moment, build entire infrastructure. Like I especially show this CDK screenshot, right? Because this is something what waits for us in the corner. So the software in their code will build infrastructure. So machine will build infrastructure to machine, right? And we start to think a lot about intelligent DevOps toolchain, and this is something that is worth to be included in your portfolio of products, both for developers or DevOps, right? But also for operators, like this Code Whisperer. This is the software which allowing to with AI to go through your code and show maybe some kind of not alignment with best practice, right? So there are tools also for infrastructure, for logs, for everything there. And in AWS you have package of those tools, and it's worth to use it because in some moment the infrastructure is changing so rapidly that the old ways to solve those problems are not working anymore. So go for, first of all, very clearly described process of CI/CD uh, where everybody feel comfortable, right? Because machines never sleeps, so they will build even if, like Stanislav said, Ukraine is sleeping, US can work. It's gonna be like this all the time, but in scale. So moving from the things that you get a Jira ticket and set up the VM or container or wherever, passing slowly, right? So the machines will do it on our behalf, and we need to be ready for that. And then, that again, I will come back to embrace DevOps culture. And I'm not saying about only like a DevOps, right? So everybody talks about it, or SRE to be a real SRE, right? So we need to use DevOps as a delivery culture, FinOps as a mainly visibility into cost, and DevSecOps to ensure the security of deployments. It don't mean that you need ever, like tons of people to that. Sometimes yes, but sometimes you just need to be aware, right? So you don't need to call yourself DevSecOps, or maybe if you feel better, you can. But in general, you don't need to do it. You just need your team to understand the principles and feel comfortable with them. That, just like I said on the very beginning of this presentation, the people have different speeds, right? So they go to the innovation with different speeds. Some of them, they stop the innovation because they don't understand that and they don't feel comfortable. So we, as people who drive this innovation and as an internal IT team, we should embrace them and help them and bring more people to knowledge transfer, to show them good parts or not, but also to listen them, because sometimes people who have different point of view than ours can bring a lot of the discussion, and they're also are very good specialists. So sometimes maybe listen to them and not go the wrong way, right? So the wrong way, right? Okay, let's go for the wrong way. So first of all, when you think about multi-cloud, everybody sells that this way. So building everything to be able to move it around. And this is something which is replying to lock-in. Unfortunately, lock-in is something that is always happening, right? So if you buy a car, you're locked-in for 3 years of your leasing. Or if you're buying a house, you will be locked-in for 30 years of your mortgage. Oh, circa about. So the lock-in is always there, right? But let's embrace it. So if you buy a car, if you buy, let's say, house, and you're thinking about is a lock-in, right? So with 30 years, you will like live in this house and thinking like, oh my God, what I did with my life, right? And this is not the way to live. The same is with the investment of in some vendor. So you need to think about benefits instead of the costs, right? Sometimes costs when they are like growing, above the benefits. Well, that's the time to move, right? But it's always ups and downs. But to build everything to be moving, to be able to be moved around, it's super complicated. You need to actually add another layer on top of the environments from different vendors that have already many layers. So imagine that even if you will build that stuff, how hard it's gonna be to sustain it. Abstracted from the cloud vendor model, I met one customers back in the days, when the containers starting, and those guys was setting up AC2 instances, like a massive one, and put OpenShift into it, and on top of the OpenShift, they run containers. This is the way how we're not supposed to do it, because you will just not use any benefits of the cloud, right? So you not use the native services. You will limit yourself in speed and agility, and is just a bad idea. And you will use cloud as data center. That's not the way how to do it. Effort and cost of developing multi-cloud solutions is hard to justify. If you have these doubts, that means that you are not afford to have multi-cloud solution, right? So you really need to think about it to develop like real multi-cloud solution, not just simply use the SaaS, right? It's huge effort and cost. And the question is if the cost of this and sustaining this operation will bring you a value to that, right? And unless like you answer to this question definitely yes, then I will dig deeper on your side. You lack of the DevOps capacity and know-how. And it's very common. So you have a like great, amazing team of the AWS experts, and then you think like, whoo, let's build this in GCP. And then suddenly appears that you need another team of DevOps, SRE guys working for Google because those technologies are cloud but different, right? So it's like a speaking, like Mandarin, and after that go to Arabic country, right? So still the language, right? Still we use mouth to do it, but it's like completely different. So I just left you here. This is my last slide with Forest Brazil simple curve, right? So there is a difference between cleverness and wisdom. So you can be a clever guy, right? So you're using the cloud as a data center and move to cloud. Ooh, I'm super happy. I'm in the pantheon of people who move to the cloud. Or I will write everything cloud agnostic middleware tooling because I want to move all around the different clouds. But well, the wisdom is to use the tools the way that they're best. And I think that's just sum everything's up. So if you build internal IT for multi-cloud era, you need to think first if you need to go multi-cloud, a real multi-cloud, not this 5% multi-cloud. And second of all, to think on what basically cloud you will put services and what the benefit it will bring you, right? So thank you very much. You can reach me on blog or Twitter. And yeah, that's pretty all. Thank you.
Thank you, Maciej. It's a really great presentation. And as usual, a few questions from my side.
Sure,
Uh,
sure, of course.
I had a few, requests for proposal to build multi-cloud, or we think that probably multi-cloud is a better solution for the customer.
Mhm.
Maybe you can share some, drivers, some requirements which can demonstrate us that okay, for these specific requirements, probably we should think about multi-cloud. So, what they can be?
Yeah. So the thing is, first of all, like I said, depends on the model, but let's say that we will choose the model in the middle, right? So we'll just think that, okay, there is a better solution, like for example, BigQuery, right? Maybe for in Google that is working better for us, right? And it's like give us a tons of benefits and a tons of data. It's already in Google because we're collecting it somehow. So this is a perfect solution, to go for multi-cloud and just build application all in Google just for analytics because everything is there, right? So it's just like pointless to move it to AWS, and just do the same stuff in AWS. But again, you need to think about people. Do you have people who knows BigQuery? Well, Dimitro, how hard it is to find people. So
That's right.
that's the point, right? And so this is for sure. And I think that you need to think through your business realistic. So what the Werner said. Yeah, this 1 second really matter. So can I, restore myself in 1 hour? It's gonna cost me like bazilliard of dollars to build solution that it will protect it for one time in my lifetime. Well, maybe a just better insurance is the option, So, but also there are business that are really like time dependable. So maybe super microtransaction businesses, right? So every minute it's cost them fortune. So well, it's just a simple Excel calculation. So if it's gonna fit for you, if you have this and you think that it's gonna be the greatest way to go for it. I think
Yeah.
medical could be a good use case because well, I wish at least that if somebody will build a medical application that it will run, let's say, devices to support my breathing, right? That they will be in
Hmm.
both clouds, at least in two regions, right? It's gonna be good.
That's right. Yeah, you're right. So that's why we need service catalog just to match some specific logic, right, to some clouds, right? We can even implement vendor lock. I mean, implementing with uh, cloud native services in this way, right? Why not?
Yeah,
So
you know,
if we
there is a
get
thing about service catalog. You know, I personally don't like soya latte, right? But there are tons of people who love it. And,
Mhm.
you know, so you don't build service catalog for yourself. You build service catalog for people who will use it. So there are different completely people. And you can also, you know, build a service catalog with multi-cloud solution if there is any business justification that somebody will use it. So first of all, to talk with your sponsor and product owner or somebody, and you have money, you have a budget to build a multi-cloud solution, perfect. Yeah, let's build it, you know. But there needs to be a business justification.
Mhm. Yeah, a few questions from
Mhm.
community. So can AWS Service Catalog be created with service from different cloud providers?
You know, there is a thing, you know, usually when you create application based on different cloud, you want to make it autonomous, right? So, and
That's right.
when I look at into my customers, you know, all of them build their own application, and this application is somehow controlling on one cloud or a couple of clouds. Just, you know, like if you don't put everything to one basket, and also the thing that is managing that basket. So I think that this you should build outside your infrastructure, let's say, even of this infrastructure, but like it's gonna be something that you will build for yourself, because this thing it always looks different for every company. It's like anywhere you go, it's like different GUI, different user experience expected, just completely different stuff. And sometimes it's like, what? And okay, there is logic. I didn't expect that. Right. So
Hmm. Yeah. So there are some vendors, and they provide the software, let's say automation, some platform for building multi-cloud, like GCP, Antos, right, or
mhm.
VMware Tenzo. They provide. Do you know something more? So maybe from AWS or
Yeah.
from other
So
providers.
so you know, like when you think about this automation, again, the most important is to test it. We had some experience with Tanzu, and Tanzu gives you ability to do, you know, like a multi-cloud deployment for containers, for example. But
Hmm.
do you really run everything in containers? Usually, when you go all into AWS, you use maybe some DynamoDB, maybe you know some. So this just like address a little bit of that. And if you feel comfortable with that, perfect, right? But there are customers who just, if they are going all into AWS, like for example, Grammarly, like I understood from the presentation, they use also some native services, right? So this
Correct.
is something that will not allow you to provision it. So I don't think that there are existing real tools to automate everything. It can automate, you know, like 90% of your workloads, but who knows, right? Maybe it's enough for you.
Hmm.
I think this is important, just to think what you really really have, and through this look into cloud solutions.
Hmm. So again, service catalog is important
Yeah.
before
Understand
we
yourself and then choose, right?
yeah, cool. Probably the last question. Can you comment on best DevOps practices like automating everything, right tools, good CI/CD pipelines, monitoring, etc. So,
Yeah, so I had this wisdom cleverness curve, right? And in this wisdom cleverness curve, there was a thing, right? So it's not super wise to build everything, because you know I didn't build my fridge right in the house. So I just go to the
mhm,
shop, I bought a fridge, I bring it home because I want to have cold food and beverages. And the same is with cloud. So there is not like the best option to build everything by your own. Probably not. There are plenty of genius people working on tools in AWS or even the tools, multi-cloud tools. Just try to go through them and then decide to build on your own. Building on your own is like extremely expensive. In the long
Yeah,
run, it brings a value, but it's like extremely expensive. So you think maybe on the beginning, on the beginning of the first, let's say half a year, it's cheaper, but then you need to upgrade it. And then somebody add another features. Then, service provider change the API scape. It's like you work all your ass off for next 6 years only to sustain tooling. If you're aware of that and if you are forward of that, go for it, man. But think about
yeah,
it, that is just on the beginning cheaper. And then, not so much, I think. Yeah.
that's right. Yeah, that's why companies like Netflix, they are build their own tool set, but it is really expensive to
Yeah.
create new
Okay.
bicycle. Usually, yeah, uh,
Yeah. So there
really,
is a saying, right? And I always saying that to my customers, to my partners, and sometimes we're laughing even from it. It's Sam Lambert on Twitter some time ago said, "You don't have Google problems. You don't need Google's architecture, right?"
yeah,
So it's the same like with Netflix, right? If you are a company that's have small e-commerce, right, selling coffee, you just don't need that chaos engineering, super complicated. Awesome. I'm not saying it's shitty. I'm saying it's awesome, right? But maybe just think through yourself a little bit. Like Werner said, maybe this 1 second doesn't change your life a lot, but it will. You will have more time for everything, right? If you will not design and code and deploy everything by your own.
that's right. Thank you for your
Thank you very
knowledge
much.
sharing. Thank you for your presentation.